All right, hello, and thanks again for joining us on the another installment of the Digital Signage Connection webinar series. I wanted to welcome you, as always. We thank you for joining into our monthly series. We've got a very informative talk set up for you guys today. I wanted to give you a brief rundown of what we'll be going over, as well as some information about our speakers, and then turn it over to my two esteemed colleagues here and get us going today. Because digital signage networks source their relative contextual media value from their collective geography, social media is a powerful tool not only to engage audiences, but also to deliver a call to action. Incorporating social media with digital signage was a topic discussed in detail by the Digital Signage Expo's Advisory Board this past January. When implementing a social media component for your digital signage network, it is important to focus on keeping viewers engaged, said David Salemi, Senior Manager of Business Development for John Glenn Columbus International Airport. And while effective digital signage creates a connection through its message, it is a social media component that can create the engagement. Here's a little bit more information about our two speakers. First, David Salemi joined the Columbus Regional Airport Authority in October of 1996. He was hired under the General Counsel's office with a focus on concessions and real estate. Throughout his time with CRAA, he has been responsible for terminal and concession development at Port Columbus International Airport and is now primarily responsible for managing the in-airport advertising program. Salemi's other efforts at Port Columbus International Airport include the negotiating and drafting of concession agreements, bid packages, requests for proposal, land and building leases, airline lease amendments, minimum standards, and other agreements with a broad spectrum of airport tenants and operators. Our other presenter today is Brad Parler. He is the Digital Communications Administrator at Blinds.com, the world's largest online window covering store that was recently acquired by the Home Depot. As a video broadcast design and digital technology veteran, Parler draws from more than 15 years of experience, with one foot firmly planted in the world of video production and the other planted in the world of internet technology. In his current role, Parler has achieved national industry attention with his innovative take on displaying important data in beautiful and easy-to-understand ways. He conceptualized, built, and actively maintains the graphics and HD video-rich internal corporate communications network that includes more than 70 large-format displays and 2 large video walls. Brad is the proud father of 4 with a love of all things technology, tea, great-looking facial hair. Ask him about that on major social networks. And testing geeky wellness experiments. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our esteemed presenters for the afternoon. As always, we have, if you have any questions, please type those into the attendee the attendee chat, and we'll be sure to get to those questions toward the end of the webinar. So stick with us if you have a question. Just type it in as we go, and we'll address those questions at the end. And without further ado, we're going to hand it over to Brad and David.
All right, thank you for that introduction. This is David Salemi with John Glenn Columbus International Airport. What I'm going to walk us through here real quick is we'll start off with just a brief background on our airport. So John Glenn serves roughly 7.3 million passengers. We're looking at about a 4% increase in 2017 over those 2016 numbers. All but a few connecting passengers go through our ticket lobbies. So we have a rather large ticket lobby with 3 concourses that feed off that ticket lobby. Each one of those concourses has its own checkpoint. What we've installed above each one of the concourses are large format video walls. We've got 2 very new direct view LEDs above 2 of our concourse entrances, and we are upgrading the 3rd one here very soon in 2018. These are high resolution and 3mm, very very crisp, very clear, and all of the content on all of our surfaces are managed by the content management software is Omnivex Moxie. So what we want to do is, we want to figure out a way to engage with the passenger other than just through straightforward advertising. So about half the time on this on the video wall portion of the surface is dedicated to advertising. The other half is dedicated to airport messaging. But what we needed to do before we even began to create content and display on there is to understand, who we're communicating to, what we needed to communicate to them. So we undertook an effort called a journey map, and what this journey map did was helped us identify our different passenger types, when they were in the terminal, what they were looking for. And this journey map wasn't just done by interviews of the passengers. We interviewed the passengers. We used Wi-Fi data. We talked to all variety of folks who interact with the passengers, concession managers, airport leadership. So it was a pretty broad survey of what was going on and who was interacting with them. We identified three primary passenger types: the business passenger, high-frequency traveler, the leisure traveler, who was someone just going on a vacation, and then families, which is essentially a broader subset of that leisure passengers. And then we looked at how we were going to reach them and where we wanted those messages. The digital signs in the ticket lobby provided a good location. They were each identified as dwell zones, where the passengers would be open and receptive to messaging. And then when we looked deeper into what type of messages, there was a heavy focus on lifestyle imagery and visuals, as well as incorporating our brand identity. If we looked at different elements in the journey map, we also looked for times where their different stress points were. And so a portion of the journey map would show the heightened level of stress just before security. So it was important to stay with those visuals and those lifestyle imageries in this location, because we saw that as an opportunity to connect with them. When we drilled down a little bit further in the data, we saw how much time folks were using in the ticket lobby area. And this slide here just shows a clip of a typical business traveler through the airport, and then at the bottom showing how a family would travel through the airport. And you can see the minutes and the times that they would spend in the ticket lobby versus at the gates, ready to get on the airplane. So we saw an opportunity to reach them because we saw significant dwell time in these areas. When we look deeper into the types of communication tools that they were utilizing, historically we'd seen a heavy use with laptops, but of course with smartphones, we were seeing a significant percentage. Well over 60% were using iPhones or an iOS-based system, and roughly 30% were using an Android-based system, with the rest of the systems that were showing up on our Wi-Fi system as being something that was more typically laptop-based. We used all this data to begin to create programs and outreach through our social media platforms. We ran a photo-based contest where we were reaching out to our passengers through the signage that was in place in the terminal, as well as social media, promoting this photo contest, where we were specifically looking for pictures and information from their destination. So we're able to collect and use those images, not only on our Facebook site to promote what folks were seeing, but then also to maximize the value out of this contest. And then what flowed from that was allowing the users themselves to vote on the pictures with the likes to essentially select the winners. What we struggled with initially was how we could utilize this information directly on the websites. When we looked at our content management software, again the Omnivex Moxie software, it was we felt it was very robust, but it provided us an opportunity to take a snapshot of a page, but not much of a web page, but not much more. And so when we had something that was more static in nature, we have got a website that promotes and tracks the solar panels that we have on top of our terminal that we use to offset the 2,000 power outlets we have. The software worked really well for that, but when we tried to do the same type of activity With the social media page, we were, it was relatively limited. We could grab portions of the page, but it wasn't ever consistent. And more concerning was that content might be put on the website, a comment from a passenger that we didn't necessarily want in the middle of the ticket lobby. Unfiltered comments in such a location could be a challenge. At 9 and 9, I thought so. The slides that aren't showing up on your screen, what we followed up with that was utilizing a software called Zoom. Zoom had the ability to, at its heart, it provides significant analytics of what's going on the social media site. But one of the benefits that we were able to utilize was the collection. There we go. The collection of posts that either were approved, or if we wanted to run it without having to seek the to seek internally the approval of each one of the posts that were going up, we would only post the pictures that were loaded by our social media team. And so, what the software really allowed us to do was to put a message out there that was similar to identical to the message we were putting out on social. And if we chose to display that on our interior signage. And so we were highly confident with the software that content would be loaded automatically, it would remain fresh. We knew on our social sites that we had software that was had a high degree of imagery to it, and that would fit well within these locations and would connect with the passengers as they were going through. It not only provided a comfort level on the type of messaging that was there, but it was consistent across our video streams. Brad, I'm going to leave off there. I'm going to turn it over to Brad at this point.
Thanks, Dave. It's one of those things that this kind of shoehorns right into my slides. Dave, I don't think we ever talked about it, but the image that you're showing is the video wall that I'm about to talk about. For the people who are seeing the slides at their offices or wherever you're viewing from, let's see here. Are you able to? Okay, so the video wall that's being showed there that says powered by Zoom is the video wall inside of the Blinds.com offices that we call the voice of the customer. And do you need to do a bit of a refresh from the bio that you guys heard from me? That's a bit older, and now we have 140 screens, 2 video walls, and 2 digital experiences. And I want to really emphasize that all of those screens are all employee-facing. We are a e-commerce company, and it's one of those things that's really easy to lose sight of. We're not seeing our customers right in front of us. We're not a store that people come in like a brick and mortar. What we're experiencing is just through interactions over the phone, over the web, and people buying products from our website. And so the first, the case study that I want to really get into, it involves that video wall that you saw on Dave's slides. And it's the project internally that was using the hashtag real customer photos. And it's one of those things that as an e-commerce company, we want to never lose sight of who our customers are, the pain points that they're going through when they're choosing a product that honestly most people only buy every 7 years. We wanted to better humanize our customers because we don't see them in real life. And this project was all about empathy. And when we were able in understanding what it is that they're going through, it really makes it easy for us to better improve our customer experiences and really go through the process of understanding, when something comes up, what are they saying, what is their mood, what else are they saying online. And to visualize this project started out by looking like this, as a refresher of what Dave was showing, and now looks more like this. So this, the transition from the first iteration of this video wall to what it is now really came about through the building of the customer service team that we call social care. And it's one of the things that I really stress is as you are receiving these social media messages, especially if you're going to be visualizing them, that was one of the, going back to what Dave was saying, really one of the pain points that they had, or at least my interpretation of it, was, you didn't want to show unfiltered views directly above your ticket counter. It really, I've heard the digital signage organizer over at MGM taking a very, very different approach where, because lines were long in their lobby and people were on Twitter complaining directly above them, they wanted that stress. They wanted to know that's what they were really feeling. It really depends on what you're comfortable with within your lobbies and what you're looking for. The thing that I would say is realize that those conversations are already happening by not necessarily showing them in the lobby. It may or may not be a good thing. Maybe Dave and I have a bit of a different approach on that, but with our implementation, only our employees are seeing that, right? That's not to say that you couldn't go out and just search those things. So the real customer photos, and within this digital experience of this video wall, you're seeing three things that are going on. We're using real customer photos in the center to really show what our social media influencers are putting out there and saying visually about our products. We are only visualizing the photos of our projects. We're no longer visualizing messages or tweets. You're going to see those on the far left and far right-hand side, where the right-hand side is really more about the sentiment and the velocity at which we're receiving messages. And so you can see the dashboard tool on the far right-hand side goes through and talks about the word cloud, so most used words. So if we're having a lot of issues with one product line, you will see like mini blinds coming up a lot, or just as examples. So it's something that we're tracking. And then that far left-hand corner is the far left-hand side are the real-time messages that our social care team are receiving, and then you're seeing the answers going back to that customer. And it was really the reason that we moved away from the first iteration of this video wall was because the way in which Zoom was visualizing it, it was only showing the problem, and where Social Studio was allowing us to show the resolution of that customer's issue. And so going through and really visualizing this and understanding the customer journey, just like what Dave was doing in the process of research of understanding what was going on with his travelers in certain areas. And I have to say, like, using that Wi-Fi data is genius, because you're knowing exactly where your customers are and what they're doing, and well, at least what devices that they're using. So what kind of dwell times that they're going to be having. We did a lot of the same thing, and to better understand the customer journey, again, our customers are not physically in front of us. We turned our customer journey from something that was very virtual into something that was very physical. And this is what it looked like within our offices. We created a physical museum within the Blinds.com offices called the Customer Journey Wall. And you'll notice on the right-hand side of the slide, we're also visualizing it's really the first generation. We're rehashing that feed from Zoom on a small digital sign on the right-hand side. And what this represents is a physical, going through and how our customers are finding us, what are they saying about us, and it walks you all the way through. And we found that this was really important. So when we have new associates that are onboarded and we're really trying to explain to them, instead of just walking them through the process virtually on our websites or through phone calls, we take them to this museum-like installment within our office and really show them what it's like. In the middle of the screen, you can see that we have the email templates that go out, as well as emails that get sent back to us, like, hey, this doesn't make sense, or how, and it helps us really build out. So taking that same approach that Dave did in that research phase, we took this approach in our offices to really virtualize, or really make something physical into something that was virtual. And the last piece that I really want to show you guys is it's an internal hashtag. So the first case study in Real Customer Photos was all about what our customers were saying about us. This next piece is about what we're saying, us ourselves are saying about working at blinds.com. And it's an internal hashtag that we use. It's blinds.com-life. And I really encourage you, I'm sure that you have a digital device, your smartphone, a tablet, or something. If you search this hashtag in Twitter or Instagram, are really the two pieces that are really going to show off. What you'll see are the spectacle that exists within this office. And the thing that's been really fun, and what we've really discovered, is that people love to see themselves and to see people that they love, right? It's one of the things as a dad I have discovered, anytime I needed to pacify a kid, I wouldn't just hand them a cell phone and like, hey, here, play with this. When my children were really young, we would show them other videos of themselves as kids or videos of kids. It was just amazing that they would just like glue into that because they love to see people like them. There's some neuroscience there that I've heard before, but really want to tap into that. In the process of utilizing this hashtag that we're using Zoom as a tool to bring in and aggregate that data and visualize those things. And the power in showing my coworkers the crazy things that are going on in the 3 floors within our one office has been huge. And it's not been the power isn't in just showing that, but it's the velocity at which we show that. When something gets posted, and again, because these displays are employee-facing only, I am not moderating them. And one of the questions that I've had with senior leadership was, what happens when we need to pull something? I can pull it within a minute. I have a tool on my cell phone. I can moderate something immediately. Everything is moderated to automatically approve. And I feel that the question that they came back that I pushed back with was, if we do have a situation where someone is utilizing this inappropriately and they are one of our employees, should they be? It's just putting that back. Okay, if we need to have this as a conversation, have we made a wrong decision somewhere? Going along with implementing social media within your digital signage networks, just want to leave with a quick list of things just to be thinking about as warnings ahead. And in putting this together, it really seems semi-obvious, but if your organization isn't doing social media well, there's a good chance that you may not visualize social media well as well. And so I would really step back into really thinking about what it is that you're trying to accomplish through visualizing social media and the way in which you're interacting with your customers or your patrons inside of social media. Because if it just goes back to the fundamentals. If you can't walk, you probably are going to have a hard time running. Within the role within social media, especially if you're going to be putting questions out there for your customers or giving your customers opportunities to respond, make sure that you're staffed adequately to respond to those messages in a time frame that makes sense for that network. A response 2 days later on Twitter is completely useless because the speed of which Twitter likes to work as a network, you need to be looking at response times within hours at the most, because that is the equivalent of a year. And I would urge you to not think of social media as a megaphone. It is we're dealing with digital natives. Millennials make up majority of your audience. In most cases, on social networks. As digital natives, they want to be spoken to, not yelled at. And so creating a space at which you can communicate rather than just say, hey, here's our offers, here's our offers, here's our offers, is really going to be key. And the last, as you're developing these things, and where I think digital signage can really, really create some amazing things for you within social media, is especially when you have a listening strategy. The thing that I absolutely love about the tools that we use here are not just the visualization tools, but the understanding that they give with the analytics behind them. It will tell you more about your customers and what they're saying based on the other things that you're able to tease out. You'll understand more about their music listening habits and their shopping experiences and what other things are they liking on social networks. And that will, if you're savvy in social media, you'll be able to position things in front of them that will only deeper the experience that they have with you and your business, and will instantly build credibility and lifetime value. And it's one of those things that you can visualize that through social media. So at this time, I want to turn it back to everybody else and see what questions we have.
Hey, Brad, I'm glad you liked that transition that we used, your slide and our stuff. So I'm glad that worked well. I saw a question that popped up here in the chat that asked, is Zoom competitive to Sprinkler? I don't know enough about the Sprinkler software to comment on that, but what Zoom did was for us, because we had public-facing signs, so we had different requirements than if we had something that was internally focused. So we had to make sure that our content was approved and something that we'd be comfortable sharing with the public. That's why with our social media posts, we were already doing that, so we're there. What Zoom did was it provided a dedicated website that we could use our content management software, point it at that website, and it would capture that image, and it could put it directly on the wall without us having to, and it would tile those. It'd be a static website with a static size that constantly had updated tiles of imagery and comments. And so if Sprinkler has that, and I did a real quick search, and I see both of them have analytic abilities, etc. But from our end, from getting the digital signage, getting those posts onto the digital signage, Zoom provided that avenue as well. I don't know if Sprinkler does, but I know that that's the feature that we really that grabbed me and made me interested in the Zoom software.
Right. And I also did a really fast search, and it looks like within their social cloud, it will do display and social listening. I can't speak to this product. It looks more like a competitor to Social Studio rather than a display partner, where just depending on what they can do with their display layer. But it may be very similar.
I mean, there was just posted the FYI. Sprinkler does post too, so it seems like the answer is yes.
Excellent.
Okay, there are a couple more questions here. First of all, I know Brad, you were mentioning in your sort of updating your bio and talking about that you guys had digital experiences in the blinds.com office. Someone was asking what exactly you meant by the term digital experiences.
We have built out a VR lounge with 2 VR experiences, so you can step in and really go through and just have fun with VR, because we wanted to have our developers thinking about ways that they could use that in the future. The other digital experience that we have is, it goes around the year 2020 vision that our CEO, Jay, put forth 2 years ago now, that it was a look ahead of what our business would look like in the year 2020. And we partnered with an agency and built an actual arcade game that you can play inside of our office and experience as a first-person shooter-like experience. So it's a fun. There may be more information about that in the future, but those are the 2 digital experiences that we have. The other one that is in development is an area within one of our lobbies that is called Past and Present. And Jay, our CEO, is very big on emphasizing where we came from, so we don't forget how far we've come as a business. And that will have a multiple screen digital representation of the different locations where offices have been, and who was almost like a yearbook-like feel, who was with the company at that time, what were the milestones that we achieved in that space, and it will show what's gone on throughout the years.
Okay, we have another question. This one's specifically for David. They ask, how often are you updating your feed at the airport, and do you have dedicated staff moderating the feed?
We have dedicated social staff. When we only used it for our posts. We never got comfortable enough opening it up and doing the moderating type of standpoint. So we only had our posts on there.
Okay, great. And then we just got a couple more questions. We won't hold anybody much longer. Number one, and this is kind of for both of you, I guess, what sort of challenges beyond the ones that Brad mentioned? I know Brad mentioned a lot of things about, kind of identifying the challenges that might exist within your own company. But say your company is great at social media and they meet all those check marks that we talked about earlier. What are some challenges kind of from the other side of things, from the sort of digital implementation side that a company could face when trying to integrate social media into their sort of digital platform?
And I guess I could jump.
So I will.
Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, go ahead and jump in there, Dave.
I mean, the challenges are, again, getting it right. Again, as having public-facing signage on our end, we have to be very sensitive to. I mean, when you're blinds.com, my guess is that if there's something going wrong with the messaging, or there's a message out there that you need to address, you've got more time than a public-facing entity does, and you're answering to different. You're answering to different people. And so, that's really one of the main reasons why we had to limit our look just at the messaging that came from us. And personnel is, always a challenge, and we're still relatively recent, even though dedicated social staff has been here for, I believe, a little over a year now. That's still relatively new, and so having folks who are dedicated to digital content management overall. We probably have 2 to 3 folks on staff who assist with that effort, with the individual who's in charge of social probably taking the lead right about now. But it's as a government entity, it's a little different than private sector.
Yes, if
okay,
we
Brad,
had
do you have anything?
Oh, yes, sir. If our offices were open and we were a brick and mortar, we would have approached things vastly differently. And what Dave said is absolutely the case. The other challenge, and one of the things that we're working on, and I think I can talk about it, but one of the things that most people do not realize with social networks, let's take a look at just Instagram. Reposting someone else's photo from their feed to yours breaks the Instagram terms of service. Even though reposting is a very big thing within Instagram and the culture that surrounds that social network, it actually breaks terms of service. If you were looking at doing something like that, especially for a contest, and you wanted that image to show up also in your feed, you have to do something along the lines of consent, where you send a message to that individual, hey, can we utilize this and reshare your photo? And just by them saying yes in a public setting, you now have the go-ahead to do that, and you're fine under the terms of service within Instagram. Just knowing the the legalities of these things is a big deal, and it's something that I just discovered recently with a way that we're shaping a contest within our walls.
Okay, sure. And it looks like we just got one more question, and we'll leave it at that. This is another question for both of you guys. Can you both give some insight into the size of your teams that help manage your digital signage content?
For me, Brad, it's just me, and that's I'm only one geographic location, managing content for 140 screens and the 2 video walls. The digital experiences are separate; they're pre-built. I have some help through our Genius Bar, which we call Tech Deck, and going out and doing physical service of the screens themselves. But for the content and planning and everything else, it's just myself.
I'd say in total we have about we'd have about 3 total people involved. But there are a lot of support efforts out there, individuals as well who can load and manage. Our signs have a component of sold ads. Clear Channel has got the responsibility to sell ads on about half of the time on the wall. The remainder, we've got our social media manager. We've got several staff involved in marketing. We've got design folks in-house who can design to it. But in total, in managing the software itself and what gets loaded, when it gets loaded, what gets taken down, that would be right around 3 folks. But again, it's 3 people, not just focused on the social side. So.
Right. Okay. Well, I along with everyone else listening in, I'm sure I speak for all of them when we say thank you to our presenters, Brad and David. And we wanted to remind everyone that's listening into the webinar, if you maybe missed a little bit of the beginning or maybe some of the end, if you'll check back with us on digitalsignageconnection.com in about a week, we'll have a link up to the full version of this webinar, slides and all included. So you can check that out as well. I also sent out, for those of you that were having trouble reading some of the slides, I sent out the full slides in the chat bar over there to the left. So if you need to download those, please feel free to do so. Also wanted to get in a quick announcement about our next webinar in the Digital Signage Connection webinar series, which is coming up on December 14th, just a few weeks away. In that webinar, we're going to discuss how to maintain network security and control damage. So be on the lookout for registration emails for that as well. And again, want to just thank everyone for attending and also thank our presenters, and we will see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.